Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Magdalena Żelazowska. I am the head of communication and promotion team at European Network Remembrance and Solidarity. We are about to start the second day of the 13th European Remembrance Symposium and International Conference on the 50th anniversary of the Helsinki Final Act. Yesterday I learned that the secret of Finnish happiness is accepting any kind of weather and any kind of difficulties that may appear in life. So let's accept this rainy morning. And now it is my great pleasure to invite on stage Mr. Rafał Rogulski, the director of European Network Remembrance and Solidarity.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Dear Minister, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. We are meeting in a place that symbolizes a process which led to a peace agreement and which concluded despite the divisions and fierce rivalries between West and East. The start of this process was proposed in 1964 at the United Nations by the Polish Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Adam Rapacki, of the then communist-controlled Poland. The authors of the plan announced and agreed to the gradual conventional disarmament and the creation of a non-atomic zone in Central Europe. Helsinki and Finlandia are also a symbol of agreement on fundamental issues. An agreement concluded in spite of disagreements on many important issues, such as the German question at that time, in an era that is sometimes referred to in 20th century history as the tone, de-escalation, even though the de-escalation was accompanied by a military technology race, and the US demanded that the Western European states take more responsibility for their security, including its financing. Today, NATO partners are hearing, and rightly so, similar demands. Today, too many issues remain unsettled. So, can the experience of the time provide any guidance for today's politicians? We will discuss this and many other issues related to peace processes, their history, their heritage, but above all, their future. As I mentioned last night, the annual European Remembrance Symposium, one of the flagship projects of the European Network Remembrance and Solidarity, aims to give you representatives of institutions involved in the dissemination and sometimes the research of 20th century history the opportunity to share your experiences, to share your questions, your successes. One of the objectives is to seek opportunities for joint projects and to cooperate across borders to bring together different perspectives of 20th century European history and to help each other get to know and understand each other better. In addition to this aim, each edition of the European Remembrance Symposium always discusses a topic of importance to us all, which changes every year and usually relates to the place or anniversaries of historical events or processes. This year, as you know, we invite you to reflect our common, hopefully peaceful and secure future on the occasion of the 50th anniversary of the signing of Helsinki Final Act. In the opening panel titled Helsinki and Diplomacy, Power and Limitations you will be experiencing in a moment, Mr. Jako Jalawa was going to share with us his thoughts. However, Just a few days ago, we were informed about his passing. Jako Lajava had a long and renewed career in a Finnish diplomacy, serving as ambassador to the United States and United Kingdom, as well as an Undersecretary of State for Foreign and Security Policy. Since joining the Ministry for Foreign Affairs in 1972, he played a central role in shaping Finland's foreign and security policy and was widely recognized as an expert in transatlantic relations. In 2011, he was appointed as a facilitator for the Conference on the Middle East Nuclear Non-Proliferation. Let us please honor his memory with a minute of silence. Thank you very much. So, ladies and gentlemen, once more, thank you very much for accepting our invitation, coming to Finlandia Hall, coming to Finland. Let me, at the end of my short speech, to thank some people, this time not the institutions, but some people being responsible for co-organizing this event. The first person, Professor Laura Kolbe. Thank you very much for your help from the Professor Laura Kolbe from the Helsinki University. Professor Taivo Taivainen, Mrs. Kati Katielso, Mrs. Heta Hedman, and Mr. Bradley Reynolds from Historians Without Borders. Specialist Päivi Taurinen. And last but not least, Professor Katharina Kunter and Jenny Baumann. Professor Katharina Kunter from University of Helsinki and Jenny Baumann from Bundesstiftung Aufarbeitung. Thank you very much for your cooperation.
And the next welcome speech will be delivered by Dr. Jenny Baumann from the Federal Foundation for the Study of the Communist Dictatorship in Germany.
Hello, good morning, hyvää huomenta everybody. And thank you, Rafał Rogulski, here you are, for your kind words of welcome and for making us feel welcome here in Finlandia Talo this rainy morning in Helsinki. I am happy to join you in addressing you, our audience who have come to Helsinki, and also our audience, we shouldn't forget about them, that are joining us via live stream in different parts of the continent. My name is Jenny Baumann, and I am addressing you on behalf of the Federal Foundation for the Study of the Communist Dictatorship in Germany, and I'm doing so in the name of our director, Anna Kaminsky, whom most of you, or many of you, might know, and who is unfortunately not able to be with us today nor tomorrow, but who sends her warmest regards to all of you. The Federal Foundation is a German institution with the task to study and to investigate the communist dictatorship in East Germany. We do this by supporting projects all over Germany, also in Europe, that deal with the history of communist dictatorships, of German division and unity, of the culture of remembrance, and the period of European transformations after the end of the Cold War. This conference here today is one of the many projects, but a special one, that we were not only very happy to fund, but also very happy to co-organize and finally to co-host. We do this, and we are grateful for it, with many partners from many different European states. Overall, I actually counted 13 logos of different institutions on the back of our program, which I find quite impressive. Yeah, and just as the let's say, field of study of our institution, the German Democratic Republic, the GDR, was never a regional variant of communism in the form of half a German state, East Germany, but always part of the entire communist system. Our memory and educational work today is also based on mutual understanding, mutual cooperation, transnational and transcultural cooperation, and learning from other states with dictatorial pasts. And even though the historians, and there are many among us, know that it is always better not to judge historical events from or by the end of history or from the perspective of its end, we know also that the peaceful revolution within the GDR that brought down the Berlin Wall in 1989, and 1 year later, 35 years ago in this autumn, the German reunification would most likely not have been possible without the signing of the Helsinki Agreement here in Finlandiatalo, which 2 German states did in 1975. So I look forward to discussing you within the next 3 days, the, let's say, in-between developments between 1975 and today, and also to do so in the spirit of Helsinki, which means in the spirit of fruitful and peaceful cooperation. I would like to express my thanks and gratitude to all of our many partners for the, I must say, very excellent and very smooth collaboration beforehand. Of all of you, I would especially like to thank Katharina, Kunter from the University of Helsinki, and also Maria from ENRS, Maria Naimska. And she's not here with us this morning, but she will be in the evening. Lena Kingelin from Goethe Institute Helsinki, with whom we will be organizing and hosting a concert tonight, to which all of you are, of course, also very happy to join at 8 o'clock in Kaisanhelmi, just on the opposite of the Töölö Bay. I wish us all an inspirational conference, and let's do this not only in the spirit of Helsinki, but also in the fresh, a little bit rainy today, but I find still very wonderful summery air of Helsinki. Thanks.
Thank you very much. And the next welcome speech will be delivered by Professor Katharina Kunter from the Faculty of Theology at University of Helsinki.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. As you heard, my name is Katharina Kunter, and I'm Professor for Contemporary Church History at the Faculty of Theology of the University of Helsinki. And many of you, I guess, have already heard my welcome address last night. And I must admit that I was tempted to say the same again this morning, especially as Jenny, at the moment from the Bundesstiftung Aufarbeitung, has already thanked everyone I also wanted to thank. So I also wanted to thank the European Network, especially the team, the organization team, the Bundesstiftung Aufarbeitung, as mentioned, Robert Grünbaum and Jenny Baumann, and Markus Meckel, also as a figure who made all this possible in networking and supporting and inspiring us to go on with this conference. Also Johannes Paulmann from the Leibniz Institute of European History in Mainz, the Goethe Institute, and also I would like to mention the Our Foundation in Helsinki. They all have contributed to these 4 days in very different ways by finding ideas, getting forward, setting organizational tools and goals, but also by finding speakers, inviting speakers, getting and making contacts, but also for example, sponsoring the coffee during our breaks. However, I'm also standing here before you as a professor of the Faculty of Theology at the University of Helsinki, and it is not a given that I can take such an active part in shaping a civil society event like this conference. The Helsinki Final Act enshrined freedom of thought and conscience in the Principle 7, and it was then the Holy See that championed this principle at the time. Today, we all know freedom of thought and expression is increasingly under strain in many parts of the world and also in Europe. And I would like to take a moment to thank my own Faculty of Theology at the University of Helsinki on behalf of all free academic institutions for supporting collaboration between academia and civil society without interference and constraint. So once again, a warm welcome from my side, from the University of Helsinki, from the Faculty of Theology, and I wish you 3 more very inspiring and engaging days here in Helsinki. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And our next partner, Historians Without Borders, will be represented by Dr. Erkki Tuomioja.
Also on behalf of Historians Without Borders, warm welcome to Helsinki and to this house where the final act of the Conference on European Security and Cooperation was signed 50 years ago. As I recall, the immediate reaction to the final act was muted rather than ecstatic. Personally, while as a young parliamentarian, I was satisfied with the commitments to retain the status quo peacefully, I was also rather cynical about the basket-free items. And I was wrong, of course, as these proved to be one important tool in opening up the Iron Curtain and in the end contributing to the collapse of communist dictatorships. But this period when democracy was making huge gains, not only in Europe but in other parts of the world as well, was, alas, temporary and lasted scarcely 2 decades. And now we are once again living in a period with more and more countries resorting to authoritarianism and relying on military armaments for their security, and, even more dangerously, some of them also using their military force to strive for gains at the expense of other countries and nations. This is pursuing a chimera, as no lasting gains to the welfare of any people can be achieved by military means. Humankind today is faced with existential threats of nuclear war, climate change, and the loss of biodiversity, and none of them can be countered by resorting to military means. The current situation with ongoing wars in Ukraine and Gaza has shown that these and other countries have effectively pushed efforts to deal with these issues to 2nd or 3rd place on the international agenda. And it has to be also admitted that the need to address ecological issues and other threats to sustainability was only beginning to be recognized 50 years ago in the final act, even if the OSCE today is doing some good work on environmental issues. But the big global picture still is that not only have we neglected the ecological threats to humankind, we have also enhanced a 3rd existential threat to our existence, namely nuclear weapons, to the extent that the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists has set its famous doomsday clock at 89 seconds to midnight, closer than ever before during the atomic age. Putting an end to wars and the destruction and killing they entail has to be our first priority. But lasting peace can only be achieved by respecting the sovereign rights of people under attack, be it in Ukraine or Palestine. And moreover, the root causes of conflicts have to be addressed, and these vary from case to case, but one constant factor in all of them is the need to address the history behind the conflict openly and honestly, so that peace agreements can be signed in confidence that they will not be reopened by the abuse of history to abet conflicts and to prevent their lasting resolution. recognizing that history has and continues to be misused to create and stoke conflict was the impetus that led to the establishment of Historians Without Borders to mobilize historians to prevent this and to contribute to conflict resolution. Getting historians from parties to the conflict to sit down together and engage in dialogue on how history divides them and then progress to finding common understanding about their history is something that we have managed to do with Russian and Ukrainian as well as Israeli and Palestinian historians, although unfortunately today most of these historians have to work in exile. In this spirit, we can welcome the possibility of partnership with the European Network for Remembrance and Solidarity and others in arranging this symposium, which should seek to find ways to show that repeating the mantra civis pacem para bellum will not give us peace unless we also work on the basis civis pacem para pacem, as those who drafted the Final Act 50 years ago did. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Minister Petri Hakkarainen, the head of the political department at the Finnish Ministry for Foreign Affairs.
Well, thank you so much. Not minister, but representative of the ministry anyhow. And warm greetings to all of you, ladies and gentlemen, from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Finland as well. As a historian and practitioner, it's a particular pleasure for me to attend events like these, combining the then and the now, as is in the title of this event. As former Minister Tuomioja also raised, the possibilities of bringing constructive uses of history to also to the knowledge of practitioners and decision makers of today is extremely important. I'll just briefly mention 3 dates or 3 years in my opening remarks. First of all, of course, 1975. I was born a few months after the signature of the Helsinki Final Act, so I was not present at the creation. But I've spent a sizable chunk of my life doing research on that period, on the origins of the conference and the Final Act, and it's therefore a particular pleasure for me to reconnect with Mike, and I do look forward to listening to his keynote. We spent a bit of time in the same conference circuit 20 years ago or so, and Mike will be able to speak much more eloquently on the history on the Final Act than I ever could. So looking forward to that. I'll just mention one thing on 1975. Of course, it also had lots of unintended consequences. Decision makers always operate in a situation of imperfect knowledge, of uncertainties. There are always alternative futures, alternative paths towards the future. It all only looks very clear with the benefit of hindsight. And the same, of course, applies for today. There's always space for human agency on making decisions that affect our future, and that was the case in 1975 as well. Fast forward to 2021. Back then I was working together with the then President Niinistö as his advisor. That was the moment when Finland decided to take on the chairpersonship of the OSCE for this year in 2025. It was of course a very different time, but we still already then saw all the dangers in the horizon. And we then spoke a lot. The president really raised exactly the theme of today, the spirit of Helsinki, in many of his speeches and interventions. And I do recommend revisiting some of them from 2021. He wrote a piece to Foreign Policy magazine in July 2021. Also gave a speech on this theme at the Kerber Foundation in Berlin in November 2021. And there was a lot of talk about the letter, the model, and the spirit of Helsinki back then. The letter, of course, meaning the principles the model then on the thoughts of somehow expanding this idea of cooperative security to other continents as well, be it Asia, be it the Middle East, and then the spirit, which is the theme today, which really is also a mindset of how to approach things, trying to find common denominators where we can, even at the time of major disagreements. And to a certain extent, and I would say to a large extent, all of these things are still very much valid today, although we do live in a very different kind of a world than we expected in 2021. And then finally 2025, where we are today, Finland being the chairpersonship in office, we are of course not shying away from our responsibilities. We are very much looking at this from the perspective of the chairpersonship motto is respect, respond and prepare. Respect again means respecting the principles, trying to reaffirm them. The fact that they have been broken at a time when everything in the OSCE space is overshadowed by Russia's war of aggression in Ukraine, the fact that they have been broken does not mean that they are invalid. Quite to the contrary, they are more important than ever. Respond then means really responding to the challenges of today with all the means that the OSCE has in its wherewithal, and then prepare, really preparing for the future, preparing for the future challenges, making sure that the OSCE is and continues to be an important part of the European security architecture from here onwards. And I would just like to mention that we are also then gearing up for a landmark event on the exact anniversary of the Helsinki Final Act, last days of July, first days of August this year. And there is a big conference here also on these premises on the 31st of July, where we do stress the importance of the principles, but also really want to raise the importance of civil society. And just as a piece of advertisement, the registration for that event is open on the MFA website. And very finally, thank you very much, Dr. Rogulski, for your kind words on Ambassador Laajava, on his passing. It has, of course, been a big shock to the whole ministry for the past few weeks. He really is one of the preeminent diplomats that we have had during the past decades in our system, in our service, and has left an indelible mark on the history of Finnish diplomacy. So thank you very much for your kind words. I do know he had really been looking forward to this event, had been preparing his remarks in great detail. So in that sense, also a big loss for all of us. But thank you, and I wish you a very, very successful and fantastic conference here. Thank you.